Hi, it's JIHOON, and welcome back to my channel. So what do I have for you today? Today I have macroeconomics, economic growth, and national income statistics. One of the least studied parts, at least in our school. One of the least dealt parts that I think is rather hard and needs more focus. So today, as usual, I brought two questions for you. This is a paper 1 style question on economic growth and national income statistics. So 1A, how does the entering of skilled immigrants in a country affect the economic growth rate? And B, is national income statistics useless aside from showing economic growth rates? Okay, one thing to tell you guys, I simplify my questions a lot so that it's easier for you guys to understand. So I take out a lot of the command terms, but just assume that B is usually a discuss question or an evaluation question, and A is just straight up answering the question. If you have no idea how to solve a paper 1 question, please view the other videos that I've made, or go on YouTube and find how paper 1 questions look like and how you should answer them, so you know how to answer these questions in IB style. Alright, let's get right to it. 1A. Economic growth in the most simple form is the increase in real GDP over time. Okay, when skilled laborers enter the nation, there is going to be economic growth, but there's going to be two different economic growth. One is going to be potential output economic growth, and second is going to be the actual output economic growth. Now, I'll be making the two distinctions very clear, and we're going to first start with potential output economic growth. So, well, first of all, I have to go on with my diagram for explaining the potential output economic growth. Okay, so first of all, I drew a rightward shift of LRAS from LRAS 1 to LRAS 2, and I marked Y1 to, an increase to Y2. And, of course, always arrows. Also, I accompanied it by a rightward shift of SRAS 1 to SRAS 2 to satisfy the new equilibrium point created in the long run. The SRAS shifts to the right because the aggregate supply of a nation tends to shift to match the LRAS. So it's not the aggregate demand, it is usually the suppliers who increase their supply to shift the SRAS to the right, which suits or satisfies the new equilibrium point. Okay, so the explanation for why this actually occurs. So first of all, the quantity and quality of human capital would increase. Now let's think about that. These laborers are coming into the economy. So the economy is introduced to new skilled labor. And that is an increase in the quantity of human capital. At the same time, the quality of the human capital increases because the people that are coming in are actually very skilled. And skill is a higher quality of human capital. So the quantity and quality of the human capital increases. When this occurs, the productive efficiency would rise. Okay, so if a country perhaps had 100 workers, and one worker can create one product, they would have 100 products. But if 200 additional people enter the market, and they're just as capable of the workers that were already there and can create one product at a time, then that nation is able to put out an output of 300. At the same time, the 200 people that are coming in are skilled. So perhaps these people can create 2 products at a time. Hence, it would be 2 times 200 plus 100, assuming that the original laborers in the nation are not skilled, or not as skilled as the people that are coming in. So it would be 2 times 200 plus 100, so it would be 500. So from 100, the introduction of a skilled labor would increase the output to all the way up to 500. So as you can see, the productive efficiency rises due to the fact of this new introduction of skilled laborers into a new economy. As such, because there is productive efficiency, LRAS is able to shift to the right. The The shift in LRAS, or economic growth, is largely happens through the improvement in the three different capitals. First, physical. Second, human. Third, land. So these three are the different capitals that cause economic growths. And as such, this is a human capital improvement. So, and that leads to productive efficiency, and that would lead to LRS shifting, and the Y1, or the real GDP, would shift from Y1 to Y2, and that indicates economic growth. Voila. Alright, so now I'll be talking about the actual output economic growth. Okay, so as you can see, there's a huge difference in how I drew the graph. I took out the LRAS. That is because the LRAS is usually there to prove that there's an economic growth in potential output. But we're trying to show that there's actual output economic growth. So here, you don't really need the LRAS. Okay, so in the graph, the AD shifts to the right and the SRAS shifts to the right, and that increases the real GDP, which is an economic growth. Now I'll be explaining why that happens. So first I'll be talking about SRAS, then I'll explain the AD. So first, SRAS. If there's more skilled laborers inside a economy, it causes the wage to drop. That is because if you look at the labor market, although you don't have to draw it here, it is good for you to understand that in the labor market, there's more supply of laborers. That means the wage would drop. If the wage drops, in the firm's perspective, the cost of production would drop, so they would increase employment. And there's an increased employment, for a lot of the firms, the productivity would increase. And once again, if productivity increases, that leads to the increase of SRAS. And a shift to the right in the SRAS in itself is an economic growth in its actual output. Now I'll be talking about the AD. Okay, so the AD side of the story, when it comes down to actual output economic growth, it's more simple. So there are more skilled laborers inside the country, but skilled laborers are also people. So the overall population would increase for the economy. And if there's an increase in population, of course, there's going to be additional consumption because there's more people. If there's an increase in consumption, that would impact the AD because the AD, or aggregate demand, consists of CIGNX. So I'm guessing that many of you guys know what CIGNX is, but for those who don't know, CIGNX is consumption, investment, government spending, and NX is net export. So export minus import. So we usually write it as NX. So out of the CIGNX of AD, consumption increases, which is C, so that would eventually increase AD. So when you're writing your answers, you have to explain that the SRAS shifted to the right and the AD shifted to the right. And after that, you have to talk about the newly defined equilibrium and how the original equilibrium was at P1, Y1, but it shifted to the right to Y2, P1. So the main point here is that the real GDP increased from Y1 to Y2, so that is a form of economic growth. So that is the answer for 1A. So it's preferable for you to split your essays between potential and actual output. And in your potential output, you'd have to draw a graph relating to the shift in LRAS. On the other hand, for the actual output, you'd have to draw a shift in SRAS and AD to fully show the examiners that you truly understand what actual output increase means. And you took every single possible variations, or you took under every single possibilities under consideration when you're answering this question. Okay, now I'll be moving to 1B. So in 1B, the most important economic term would of course be national income statistics. So what is national income statistics? Well, the national income statistics is the total value of all goods and services that are purchased within a country in one financial year. Before we move into answering the question, of course, we have to do the definition. So the most important economic term in this question would be, national income statistics. So what does national income statistics mean? Well, it means the total value of goods and services produced within a country in one financial year. Okay, so for question 1b, in the actual IB question, it would be asking you to evaluate the national income statistics. So you'd be speaking for and against the question. So in the question, it talks about whether or not whether or not the national income statistics only shows the growth rate of a country. So if you're arguing against this statement, you'd be stating different functions the national income statistics has other from showing economic growth. So here are some of the other functions that I think are plausible. Are plausible to be used as arguments. So the first one is providing an idea of standard of living. When a lot of politicians are talking about the level of well-being of an individual living in a country, they often refer to the GDP of the country, and the GDP is one of the ways of the national income. One of the ways national income statistics is quantified. So it does give a sense of the standard of living within a country. Also, it indicates material values, it indicates material welfare. What does this mean? Well, it gives us a sense of how much of a consumption of goods and services is occurring within a country. So it shows how accessible or how lively or how well transactions are occurring within an economy and how lively it is in itself of different transactions. So other from these two functions, I don't think national income statistics really serves any other functions. Yes. Now I'll be moving on to the argument that the national income statistics only shows economic growth. Okay, now speaking for the fact that the national income statistics can only give insight for economic growth. Okay, so the first point would be that the national income statistics does not reflect on non-material welfare. What does that mean? Well, the country's health, income equality, education, pollution, these non-material factors of defining a country's standard of living is not inside national income statistics. It's of insight to any other things from economic growth. Economic growth simply means that a country's economy improved. It's not about standard of living, it's just that the economy improved. So also, you can talk about how the national income statistics could be inaccurate, especially when it comes down to material welfare. So previously it was stated that the standard of living can be given insight. Also, a sense of material welfare of a country can be given through the national income statistics. However, through making this point, you can completely eradicate the other side of the argument, because you're saying that, well, they can provide these type of insights, but those are inaccurate. Therefore, its functionality in providing insight into standard of living or material welfare is actually inaccurate, which renders the entire other purposes obsolete or renders it useless. Therefore, also, you have to talk about why national income statistics is inaccurate. That is because the government is unable to track down all the transactions that occur in a country. So, for example, underground markets, black markets, and the subsistence farming. So, black markets, governments don't have access to the transactions that are made inside those type of industries. Also, for subsistence farming, so all the goods that are bought for growing crops is technically in the economy. However, the foods or crops that are grown are not sold back to the economy. So that is not included in the transaction that is counted within the national income statistics. Therefore, there are inaccuracies such as those that I've just mentioned that are within the national income statistics. Therefore, it renders it very inaccurate, and some of the functionalities that it originally had is hard to say. Also, you could talk about how the standard of living is not really well depicted just through economic growth because of its non-representation in non-material welfare. Because standard of living, it's more about the non-material welfare than material welfare. So the national income statistics is unable to show non-material welfare, so it doesn't really show standard of living. So all of the points that were made for the fact that national income statistics actually serves more functions than showing economic growth can be completely eradicated. So what is the conclusion for this question? The conclusion of this question would be that yes, the only function it has is showing economic growth because it is literally just giving you a bold number, and that does not indicate standard of living, or it doesn't show material welfare because of the inaccuracies and inaccuracies involved in calculating national income statistics. Also, standard of living is more related to non-material welfare, such as health, education, as I've just mentioned. However, those are not really included with the national income statistics. So the other functions that might have been potentially a function of national income statistics is weak in its functionalities. So it is hard to say that national income statistics serves any purpose beyond showing economic growth. If the national income statistics would, and here is where you can give a suggestion of how national income statistics can become more improved to serve different functionalities. My guess would be that you can create the national income statistics to be more comprehensive. So for example, HDI, the Human Development Index. The Human Development Index includes health, standard of living, and education. So these type of indexes provides an individual a better understanding of the standard of living of a country. It might not be able to show economic growths, but however, if you can find a way to put them together into a type of index, that would be able to give a more comprehensive understanding and give additional functionalities to the national income statistics. Okay, so all in all, if in order for national income statistics to become to have more functionalities, it would be major for it to not only show economic growth, but also economic development. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching again. I'll see you next time.